Hey, good evening, Rene. Really appreciate your time this evening. This is a pretty good episode that I think will break down a lot of different business categories. And so if you could please tell us a little bit about yourself.
No, I appreciate it, Anthony. My name is Rene Manfre. I'm based here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And, over the course of the years, I've been in multiple different businesses, sales, management careers. And just over the course of the last few years, I basically, taught and coached individuals in different areas of, sales, management, and business areas through the years. And through this COVID, I kind of started another coaching company, which is What's Your Passion? And then recently just created a digital marketing agency that's basically designed to really help individuals in this online marketing stratosphere, podcast and video and things of that nature. So I'm excited about meeting with you and have an opportunity to kind of learn about you and what you do, and excited about it.
No, yeah, and as we have this discussion, I'll flesh out, some of what I do and obviously how it pertains to either me, people like me can be helped by people like you. And so I wanted to talk about, the first thing I want to discuss is ownership and management expertise. And so we talked a little bit about how just because you may have a different particular type of passive income or stream of income does not mean you're working in it. And so can you explain what is that? What is ownership and management expertise?
Well, I can go back through when I first kind of started, and I started at a young age in sales and in management because my older brother, we had health clubs. So, at age 8, pretty much, I was in the health clubs, and I was always kind of, helping people around the gym, picking up weights or talking to them or, giving them some advice, things of that nature. And then through the years of that industry, that taught me that skill, I guess you can say, of really communication and working with people. Because you had people that either wanted to lose weight, gain weight, get muscle, lose muscle, things of that nature. And through that little part of my young years, I really saw a transformation. And it's exciting when you see a transformation of someone going from no self-esteem to high self-esteem within a very short period of time, like 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember those as very vividly as a kid, that my brother was very, he was a business owner, and having that opportunity to be around my brother at the time, being young. My father was a worker for oil refineries. Both were good. I guess my mentors in my life were really just hard work and communication and building relationships. So that kind of transferred me through the years. I started my insurance career right around 27.
Okay.
And that's where I really got a taste of total control of my income. That if you sell X amount of policies, things of that nature, that built my confidence, saying, man, wow, I can control my income. Then that excelled into creating a team where I managed, then getting to the point to where I leveraged my time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I don't know if that helps kind of understand. So it's everything I've ever done is I've started off in sales. And when you learn that skill of selling something, a product or service or real estate, whatever it may be, those are all the things that I start. Then when I learn it, then I get into the management area of showing or having people with me to help me manage that process, then scaling it to the point where I can not be in it as much as I used to be.
And so at what point do you know you need to outsource, or you need to be the manager and no longer work in it?
When pretty much everything that I do, I start with the visual. You have to visualize what you want, right? My processes are, and I tell people this and sometimes, but I don't think they really kind of get it, that I'm lazy by nature.
Okay.
That I want to have my time to where I want to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. So I know I have to do something quickly to get it off the ground. And it might take me 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But if I can do that and perfect it, to where I can get that sales process and that income flow coming through, then I'm already visualizing what I need next in the very beginning, whether it's, enlisting people to help out, or to be the individuals to help out with, whether it's additional sales or paperwork or marketing or whatever it may be. So I'm always enlisting and building that process, because I can't do everything, on a daily basis, right? So I'll do certain things, and I've become pretty aware of certain things that I need, but at the same time, I'm always in my mind thinking of the end result. Do I want to continue doing this process over and over and over and over? Or do I want to get to the point to where I have other people doing it, or systems in place to where I don't have to do it as much and it keeps on flowing?
So where did you get that concept from? Was it during your insurance career? Was it when somebody mentored you?
Yes. I joined, I started out my insurance career I've been with some good companies through the years. Blue Cross and Blue Shields is where I learned my basic skills of really corporate America, and working with some really good high income producers. And so at 27, 28 is pretty much where I first started hitting that six-figure or a little bit over six-figure income, right? But those individuals that I was surrounded by, they were in the business for years, and they're already making $500,000 a year plus. And then I rolled into Primerica Financial Services. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Primerica.
I've heard of Primerica before, yes.
Primerica was a very good leadership company. Their structure of basically mentoring, and you have the opportunity to really be a mentor by these powerful mentors who've been in the business for 20, 30 years. And they're as coaches. I mean, I had one here, Bill Whittle, which was one of my mentors and my coach, to where we would have phone calls on a daily basis, and he's making $300,000 a month. You can't find that kind of leadership. You know what I'm saying? And you can't pay for that. So that value of him being in my ear, or between me and a group of friends of mine, that he really kind of taught us all different areas of leadership, teamwork, relationship building, the proper way of kind of communicating. So all of these things I feel I could never have learned from any school or any mentor on a street. So I got to say that opportunity gave me the ability to really be exposed to really high level leaders and understanding their daily task and their daily planning and what you need to do to succeed.
And so that kind of segues us into time management, right? And so with time management, how do you govern or try to facilitate or encourage time management to your teams, to yourself, and to the people that you mentor / coach?
I talk about management and time management to pretty much everyone, from my friends to my family to my people who I coach and train and work with. Because your time is, you have to have a day planner, and you gotta really have that day planner to where you're looking at your time on a daily basis and prioritizing the tasks that have to get done, but at the same time focusing on tasks that equal results. And if you're not really paying attention to it, the whole day can get by. You're answering emails, you're playing on social media. If you're not really paying attention and prioritizing from a plan, the challenge is the days go by too quick, and you can end up at the end of the week and nothing really happened.
Yes.
Because you never paid attention to that daily planner. And that daily planner becomes your life, to where before I schedule a date or before I schedule anything with anyone, I look at my daily planner. And it's been over 20 years now that I've had a daily planner, and I don't know how to live without it, because it really kind of keeps me in focus and in check. That am I doing things on a daily basis, or meeting with people, or doing things that are progressing me forward. They don't know what they're making. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they did yesterday. And that's where they're never going to grow. And that's why they keep on going around and around in circles.
So when it comes to your daily planner, are you even including personal things like, this is my time to work out, this is my time to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to prioritize everything. And, I know right now in my life, my workout is not as, because I got to wake up a little bit more earlier because I've been doing different things lately. So my workout's been off a little bit. And so I'm getting back on my plan on that one. But when it comes down to my strategy calls or conference calls and things of that nature, or anything, before I leave my house in the morning, I try to get a lot of things done before 10 or 11 o'clock. So I do majority of my stuff pretty much from my house now. COVID kind of kicked me into that little mode, and it's kind of been good for me because I get a lot of Zoom calls and things of that nature done out the way. Then I'll get on the road and I'll go do whatever, banking, post office appointments, things of that nature. And then I'll have certain times in a day where I schedule, whether it's my podcasts or videos or conference calls again. And then the evening times are kind of like this, sometimes wind up to where I don't have anything to do. Either I can go work out, spend time with the family, or do a little networking and socializing events.
Exactly. And so as you progress through your career, do you find yourself, let's just say the first business that you started 20 years ago, do you find yourself throughout the years less and less involved in that business because it has grown so much, or you were equally as involved when you kind of broke off and was just managing it from afar?
I'm still involved in conversations, and overseeing, and I'm still involved in everything on a daily basis. They're just watching where we are. So right now it's more of my insurance agency, I'm basically just, I have conversations with my agents. We either text, call throughout the day, figure out, what's going on, how we're doing with production, what we have to do to kind of increase avenues. The lawn care business, that's more of, my guys they're in the field, they know what they have to do. Majority of everything's tracked through apps and things of that nature.
Okay.
So I have different teams that they know what to do. Now, do I still have problems on a daily basis? Whether it's personalities or machines break down or they have to buy stuff, things of that nature. But majority of that business I do over the phone or by text. So wherever I'm at, I might drive around, I might see certain properties, things of that nature. I might talk to a business owner because most of our business is commercial. It's not just residential. The marketing agencies, I just started this up in the last couple of months. So this is kind of taking a little bit more of my time right now.
Okay.
But it's more of the reason why is that this will help catapult everything else once I put the pieces and people in place and the systems in place and get better on everything that we're doing.
And so is your belief / process is that once you get the teams in place, that is what helps support the growth of increasing profits?
Correct. It's all about team, whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to do. Sometimes it takes a team to really kind of move you to the level where you want to scale. Now, not saying you need a large team. I'm not saying it needs a large team. I'm talking 1, 2, 3 people. Whereas I don't need 20 people doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
So I can pretty much scale with really 2 to 3 people on most of my things. Now it takes that networking and building relationships, subbing out to where I have different people who they're not employees of mine, but they're independent contractors. So where we'll sub out work, whether it's through our agency, or even my lawn care business. Those are 2 businesses pretty much I can sub out work to and still make a good little rate of return on that.
Awesome. And so what are some other strategies that you use in order to scale a business? So we talked about one, which is, creating teams, but what are some other strategies that you use?
On scaling the business, I think the main areas of scaling, and it depends on any business, is really kind of having your procedures and processes down to where you know your numbers. And I'm taking like, because you've been doing real estate for quite a while at this point, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know that for you to kind of scale up, you need to make sure that you have a good team that understands the time frame and the numbers. It's for you to move faster, right? So before I do a property anymore, now it's really, we're sitting down with my team to say, okay, this is the first steps we're going through. Renovation, that's going to be 3 days a week. This is how much the cost. If it goes over that cost, then somebody's getting hit with that, and it's not going to be me. When it comes down to whether it's framing or whether it's with electrical, plumbing, these are all the different steps. And sometimes you have to really get your team to understand the plan, because if not, they'll take your own sweet time and they'll cost you money, right?
Yeah.
So majority of workers out there, they're not on the same level as you are and I am. And so we have to kind of tell them, this is the schedule, this is the time frame, this is what I'm these are the expectations. Now, granted, you're going to have weather, you're going to have, different issues, a different challenge, different things come up. Granted, we understand that, but you calculate that in there in your time frame to where you can get finished. So that's with real estate things. And the same thing that kind of goes with my lawn care business, that whenever we do certain jobs, we know time. Everything is time. They know how much time it's going to take to cut the grass and get on a location, get off. We know how much time it should take to do any kind of cleanup work and things of that nature. So that's all built in the time. So those areas we can control projects, I guess you can say like that. When it comes down to insurance business or any other kind of business, it's really kind of figuring out how to get your people in place and make sure that if you're hiring the right people, and that's where you got to get better on your hiring process, that you're hiring talent. You're hiring people that you're not sitting here. I don't want to teach anybody how to do email marketing, social media marketing strategies, etc. Right? I want to hire somebody who's going to do that and teach me. So it's really getting to the point where you can get your teams around you, that you're hiring people that are better than you in those areas, and that's going to be an asset to your team, not a liability.
I was just about to ask you, how do you? I've been told that the hiring process is a skill. Hiring and creating a team is a skill. You do not want to just, get somebody on your team because they have XY certification. There's maybe certain particular characteristics or maybe their past work that you've seen that is like, okay, this individual, they're going to be good. Because I get nervous about the hiring process because I don't want to make the wrong choice, and then I'm stuck with that person throughout that probationary period, possibly. And so, do you hire, or do you have somebody that you have is contract out or on payroll to do hiring?
I pretty much hire, but I have different individuals that will bring people in, and I'll give them the opportunity, whether it's, with the lawn care business is a very difficult business. To find really good labor for that is challenging. But we're getting better on the processes of really setting the standards up front and expectations, and talking about who we are, our vision, leadership, teamwork, accountability, building relationships. And sometimes you have to really you have to set it up front. It's kind of like dating. You got to really set the expectations up front of really, hey, listen, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking for, because you can get into a relationship with somebody and realize their values and core and everything else is totally not the same as yours. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the same thing goes with business. I try to really kind of get to know who this person is, what is their why, what is their values, what is it that they've done in the past that can show me that, hey, you're going to be a good asset to our team. We're just not hiring a person just sit in a chair and sing kumbaya. And if their person comes in and I've gotten hard through the years, and I'm getting harder and harder. I have a heart. Don't get me wrong. I have a heart that I believe in certain people, but at the same time, when it gets to a point to where they're not excelling or they're not changing, they got to go. So you got to hire slow and fire fast.
Okay. I like
If
that.
that makes sense.
No, it does. Because I know sometimes people naturally, you may be in a rush to hire somebody very quickly because you need the spot filled, or it stops production. But you're right. If I hire quick, hastily, then it could bite me in the butt. I could actually probably end up losing money because of this individual.
Yeah, you really, you got to, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff these days, between even family people and just in general. And it's like, I'm constantly talking about these things of, distractions, the daily planner, leadership, accountability. If you have a person that's in a truck or in your vehicle, or if you have a person that's in management, and if you're the leader, and if you're the one who's causing the drama, whether it's conversations or not, then all of a sudden it's going to affect everybody behind you or around you. So it's a constant conversation you got to have if you're building a team, and if you want to scale that team, you got to constantly be sharing your vision, your values, expectations. All of these different parts are really what it's going to take for our company to grow, and what you're expecting out of certain people, to where they don't go lazy and they don't get into bad habits.
When it comes to your real estate business, do you find yourself, and I'm asking this question based off of, where you, the demographic or the area where you invest, do you find yourself sometimes having to talk to a contractor like, hey, I'm paying you this type of money. This is my standard. I do not want you to assume that the standard should be this low because of the area where you are renovating, or to assume that the standard should be extraordinary high because of this particular area that you may be renovating in. Have you run across something like that before?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you mean you have your different properties in different areas, and you kind of have to know, and it helps you contract to understand, listen, this is what we're looking at for this area. So I'm not going to put in to certain properties top-notch things if I'm not going to get the rate of return back on it, because then it's not going to be worth it. So I've dealt with higher end properties to where you put really more attention into molding, granite countertops, better cabinets. The bathrooms and the kitchens, as you know, are the main focus points that you have to spend a little bit more money in those areas. Landscaping and things of that nature is always a factor in some of the higher end areas. Some of the lower end areas that you're not going to, you want to make it all nice and just livable, and to where it's take pride. I like to make sure that any property I do get, that I make sure that I feel comfortable with people living in it. And so the contractors understand that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I meant to ask, what is your portfolio consist of as far as your real estate?
I've downsized through the years to where now I just have a few singles, two commercial, and three sixplexes.
Okay, and so
it's been diverse. I've let go a lot of properties through the last few years, and what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to go more into bigger commercial stuff. So I'm getting rid of things that are a little bit more of really not giving me the rate of return that I want. And if I'm not making, at least somewhere between 500 to really 1,000 a month on plus, after everything's said and done, it's really not worth the time anymore.
Understandable. Yeah, and I asked that question because out of the singles, the multifamilies, and then the commercial, what made you want to go to commercial to get the rate of return that you wanted? What was it about single and then smaller multifamilies that wasn't cutting it for you?
Well, I mean, when I first started singles, the problem with singles is that once you have to get in there and you get rid of a tenant, you're going to be down within minimum 15 to 30 days. So you're going to have a month of renovation, cleaning up or some sort, and getting somebody in there sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. But it's just that one income. It's just not worth the energy. So I'll buy them and flip them for the singles and even the doubles. But when it comes down to really something that is something I can hold and that's producing a really good income after everything is paid, taxes, etc., then I look at it as a good investment, future investment. So I don't get emotional too much about properties and like I used to when I was younger, because it's really, it's if the person comes, if you can get rid of something and get the cash, hey, take advantage of the different laws and taxes out there to roll it into something else. And just for me, I just like commercial, and that's why I'm trying to get more into building commercial versus, and also the singles I'll build. I want to get into new construction. So pretty much that's where I'm going right now, is new construction, whether it's new construction, commercial, new construction, singles, to where I can build them and flip them. And that's where I want to go right now. Is not a good time to do it, but I am planning for that going forward.
And what type of commercial properties do you have? What type of
when it comes down to commercial, it's either, you have your sixplexes that are, 4 and 6plexes are considered commercial, but or more of a strip mall, to where you have different people in that strip mall. Okay, so if a sixplex or six mall, to where you have a coffee shop, and you might have certain things that are good leaders that bring traffic to that location. Does that make sense?
Yes. Actually, I like that strategy. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
So when you're looking at if you're going to find something in commercial, I would say, always look at finding something that has a coffee shop or somebody in there that's really somebody's, that's going to be a good long-term tenant, but also is going to bring a lot of traffic to that location. That's where you can kind of get your rents higher.
Okay.
So
okay. Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
No, that does. And I never thought about that, because I plan to eventually transition into commercial real estate, but I never thought about what maybe having that one restaurant or store or retail, that is a attention grabber, and then it allows more traffic into the other stores so that they could be more successful. Correct. And then also it allows you the ability to increase your rents, which gives me a question. As far as when it comes to plazas like that or strip malls, what type of leases do they have? Do they have triple net leases?
Some of them do. I mean, most of them do. So it's, when you have your majority of everything is paid in that lease, because you water, no matter what, you only have one water line, right? It depends on a building. You can have more, but it's hard to do that. So you have your water line. The electricity is the only thing the majority of people are responsible for, because you don't want to put that in yours. So you have that lease built out to where it's paying for their insurance and everything else inside one payment.
Gotcha.
Now, the AC systems, that's another thing. You want to, it all depends on. I'm dealing with that right now with a building. That you have different units. So if you have different units on different locations, they're responsible for that also, in some way, shape, or form, or just the repairs or anything that breaks, things of that nature. Because if they're abusing the system and they freeze it because they're not turning the AC thing and everything else down, then you're sitting here having to pay for their inadequate or they're not paying attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So every building, I would say it's different. Depends on how the building is structured.
And that was the first I heard about the water line all being the same. I never even thought about that. You know, they all on the same water. So I can only imagine like a restaurant or maybe like a Starbucks or something, the amount of water that they use. But at the same time, a place like Starbucks or like maybe Korean barbecue. I don't know if you ever heard that restaurant before. A lot of people go to that restaurant. You know, I'm assuming that they bring enough business where you'll eat up the water because of how much business that they're bringing.
Right. Well, on those, sometimes you can, if you were, sometimes you can, it's going to cost you a lot to change it but if you can try to put high areas like that on their own water line, it is better. I've done that twice now, because it is worth it to put them on their own water line, so they pay the bill and they're responsible for majority of that. But sometimes it's not easy to do that. It depends on a building, age of the building, and everything else, and the cost that's going to take to put them on their own water line.
I'm assuming permits. Would you need a permit for that as well?
Oh yeah, everything with commercial, you need permits. You can get by with the residential stuff, but it's hard to do with commercial.
And so with those type of leases, what is the minimum amount of time that you try to lock them in, and what's the maximum you try to lock people in with those commercial properties? Is it depending on the business?
Yeah, it's really depending on the business and the size of the, smaller locations, you can kind of, 1 to 2 years. Because I don't like to do long-term leases unless it's really somebody who I really want to make sure that they stay. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the other ones that you'll have in smaller locations, I don't really like to put into long-term leases unless I feel really, really comfortable with that location. I want it to be there for a long time. But some individuals, I'm just more comfortable with 1, 2 years at max.
Were your businesses that were in your commercial properties affected during COVID?
Yeah, a little bit, but not really a huge amount. One was doing delivery, so they kind of didn't really take too much of a hiccup. And no, I don't really take a huge hit, but I took a little bit. It was like 2-3 months, but nobody was really totally shut down.
Is that something that new landlords should probably start looking into now? Is when if they start buying commercial or retail commercial, they should start looking into businesses that could get the least amount of bad impact when it comes to pandemics or recessions. Maybe I don't believe in recession-proof businesses, but look at businesses that would take the least hit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess what I'm seeing here. I'm not sure what's going on up in your area, but I'm seeing more and more. You have these large buildings that have one business, right? So you're seeing a lot of those shut down now. And yes. So those are the opportunities where you can really kind of go into some of these and get these and chop it up into different businesses, and also maybe even condo units on the top, things of that nature. So now where I'm looking at is I'm very scared of getting anything that is like one gentleman, he has this property in Mississippi that it's generating $24,000 a month. He wants to sell it for around $2 million, and I was like, that's a huge gamble right there, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, I understand it might be a 5 or 10 year lease that you have on that company, but at the same time, if that company goes south and something happens for whatever reason, then you're sitting here having a fight with that organization or that company, right? So I'm very diverse right now in my brain of thought patterns, that if I do get any buildings, I want to make sure that I have 6+ units that are generating different income, and they're diversified in their industries. So if something happens like this again, you're prepared for it, right? Because I mean, I think COVID has taught a lot of people a lot of lessons right now. I mean, it's still we're not really seeing all the effects from it yet. I think we're going to start seeing the effects over the next few months, going into next year, of a lot of companies who they can't get their workers back, or they've been living off of the money that they got from the government, things of that nature. Some places that I'm seeing here are not back up and running, so
Yeah, they're
um,
not. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of people can't get the employees back. They can't get.
not employees. A lot of the employees are still getting some type of unemployment, and they're making more on unemployment than they are at the job. It's crazy. I've heard that.
Which makes me think about, okay, how do you stabilize everything back to where it was to get people to want to incentivize people to want to work again? Because these programs, some of these programs already existed. It's just that people didn't really know about them until the pandemic, and they really started reaching and doing their research. But the America needs people to work, and you need people at entry level. You need people blue collar, white collar. I would say one thing that COVID has taught everybody, or a lot of people, especially family oriented individuals, is to be home as much as possible. So a lot of people also telework and realize that they could probably run their business a lot from their computer.
Oh, no. I think this COVID has. I mean, when you look at podcasts, are you familiar with Clubhouse?
Yes.
So when you look at Clubhouse and you look at, in general, just podcasts in general, that video and that's what put me into the mode of really kind of researching more and more of because I've always wanted to kind of build my online business more than local business, but I never had time to really kind of really focus on it. So I took the time during this period of time to really kind of create some online presences, and my I have a guy in India that works with me, and I also have some individuals who are in I think it's Pakistan or
Okay.
Philippines. Philippines.
Okay, so you have a team in Philippines as well. Yeah, I hear a lot of people doing that.
Not a big team, but I'm reaching out because these guys they want to work, and they're a little bit cheaper, but they work and they produce. And right now, while we're going through this little challenge until I can find more of the local talent, or from America, the challenge is just majority of people are still as lazy mind. So I think it's a struggle for a lot of businesses right now. A lot of kind of challenges. I mean, so with your business right now, it's like what happened with you during COVID? You have a lot of real estate that.
So yeah, such a story. So I would say about 60% of my tenants, they thought either rent was free or they actually were going through a financial hardship.
Right.
Out of the 60%, I'd say 50% of that 60% were trying to get over.
Right.
And so it's a good thing I had property management and certain systems in place to kind of safeguard me. And it's a good thing that I would save up my repairs, my vacancy, and my CapEx.
Right.
Because around March is when COVID happened. And that's when I got the beginning of a lot of my leases, because I'm big on starting my leases around March, April timeframe, when income tax timeframe comes. And I usually try to stretch my leases out 18 months or 12 to 18 months will keep me in the April to September timeframe when most people are moving.
Right.
So those guys were either 12 or 18 months. So I'm like, okay, great. Income check, credit check, everything checks out.
Right.
COVID hits, they pay for a few months, everything's going smooth. Our rent moratorium hit, I would say August timeframe in Virginia. And September 1st, phone calls are being made. Hey, what's going on? September 5th, actually, because 5 days after the 1st. So phone calls are being made. Hey, what's going on? You was paying rent. What happened? Oh, I thought rent was canceled. Oh, I didn't know I had to pay. I actually am going through financial hardship. And so some of them were embarrassed, I believe, right? To say, hey, I don't want to, they didn't want to, you know, admit, hey, I can't afford it, blah, 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 which I guess they thought if they just act like it didn't exist, that it wouldn't be brought up, but I have mortgages to pay too. And then the others were, I had to pretty much hand walk a lot of them through rental assistance programs. And so that's when I got a little personal. Aside from my property manager, I was actually talking to these individuals, trying to understand their situation. Some of the conversations were a bit nasty because it was clear that they were trying to get over. I actually had what's it called? I actually had a tenant assertion put on me for one of my tenants, which I found very interesting because throughout that process, you know, all the things that, you know, they said that they were wrong. Like one of the things in the tenant assertion, they're talking about bug behind door,
A what
dust,
behind the door?
a bug behind the door. They wanted to
A
be
bug
cleaned.
behind the door.
Yes, a bug behind the door. Black mold on the tiles, which it was just mildew that they had from not cleaning. They weren't cleaning the bathroom anymore.
Right.
Just miscellaneous things that were, hey, you just moved in. Why are the cabinets hanging off the hinges now? This place was just inspected. So part of the tenant assertion, we had to make sure everything was good to go. So I didn't even dispute, hey, you're the ones that did this. I fixed it all. And the part of the agreement is they have to put money into the escrow account every month. Well, come to find out, they only put 1 month in. And then the other 4 months that we were going back and forth, they didn't put anything in. And the clerk the whole time at the courthouse was saying that they would put money in. And so once I was finally able to evict them, because it was finally found out that they stopped putting money in the escrow, the 1 month of escrow that they did pay, it was dispersed back to them. And if I want, I have to go back and I have to take them back and put a judgment on them and to do a garnishment. So yeah, so that was probably my worst experience when it comes to the rent moratorium and somebody taking advantage. And my best, which was the majority of the people that either I found out were trying to get over, but they just needed a good talking to, like, hey, let's sit down, let's figure this out together. And the ones actually going through a problem and were communicating with me, I did my research on the rental assistance programs in this area, and then I helped them sign up for that. And then, we didn't miss a beat. So I was okay for the most part during COVID. I just had to adapt very quickly because what I did not want to do is my cash flow be affected. I feel really bad, and I have frustration for a lot of landlords that really got hit really hard because I've said this before in a couple of episodes. 6 to 12 months of savings for your mortgage vacancy is what I would expect, but anything more than that, then you're asking too much. And it's almost would have me think that it's on purpose because most businesses, you've seen some of these big businesses had to close down in commercial properties, right? I see a Kroger's Farm Fresh. I see a Sky Zone. I see big franchise companies having to close down. So what do you think the little landlord guy that has maybe 6 to 7 properties is able to handle, if these big franchises have to close?
No, it's scary, brother. I mean, when the Hurricane Katrina happened with me, that taught me my lesson that I had 30 properties, but I had my main property was in an area that I didn't have anything but little trees and fence, but nothing was wrong with the house. And so I guess for me, that Hurricane Katrina taught me a huge lesson, that things can happen. And that's where a lot of businesses are right now, that you got to constantly be living to where you're saving and you're preparing for 3 to 6 months reserves to protect you through that process. You don't know what's happening these days. You have weather conditions, you got, the country is going crazy, and it's just getting to the point to where you're living on a fence a little bit. And some companies, hey, they made out really good. They made out really good. I deal with a lot of car dealerships and some part, and so a lot of them, they kind of came out really good with some different programs. So
So
some companies made out really good.
So I'm of the belief that the money doesn't really go anywhere. It's just a shift in power happens, right? So companies like Zoom, its stock price skyrocketed because of
Right.
COVID,
Mm-hmm.
or Peloton, the Peloton bike, the
Right.
mirror gyms. So there are like even Uber. I remember when Uber during the '08 recession, around that
Mm-hmm.
time frame, Uber kind of went up. So every recession or pandemic that we may go through, the power and the money just shifts into something else. And I think as businessmen and women, we just have to adapt into what is now going to be the next power move. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think for this, for what I can see so far, and I'm not a business genius, but what I've been able to notice is that things are being handled more remotely. That is being the shift that I'm noticing.
Yeah, yes, everything the shift right now is what we're seeing is it's remote, it's online. You can have individuals to where they're working from wherever. You don't need, you don't, I try to keep overhead as low as possible before getting into leases or anything of that nature, or any kind of, anything that I'm not comfortable with. Because it's just, you never know. So, I see a lot, especially here in the city, you had a lot of bars and restaurants that, their leases were $5,000 to $10,000 a month just for the lease. And it's scary. So I think a lot of changes. So is real estate your primary business right now?
Yeah, that's primarily what we do for now. We have the podcast, but not really. It's not like I'm not living off of that, but the real estate in general is what we do. Looking forward to where it can completely replace our military income, but that would be it would actually be a lot more properties we would need to get, or at least properties that are more effective, which is actually, I forgot to say earlier. So you mentioned it earlier too, when you said you were converting to commercial because you like the cash on cash return. That's what we just started to do. We just put one of our duplexes up for sale because I see the opportunity to get more bang for my buck, pretty much, on doing different properties that I see. And so it was good. That duplex that we had was good for when we had it. It's gone up in value about $40,000 in the last 18 months. So we'll take our money, great learning experience, and put that money into something that provides a better return. Because the goal is to completely replace our income in the military with real estate. And so commercial real estate is next. But what I'm in the process of learning to do is how to build capital in order to be able to get the properties that I want out here. We have a lot of plazas. We have more plazas and shopping centers than we do malls. Probably only got like 4 malls.
Yeah, no, that's common. I think I'm seeing more and more malls are being shut down or converted. It's not, majority of people they're not really wanting to be inside the malls anymore. They want their own little standalone shops. And that's where I see, the warehouses, the way that you can build these commercial properties. I mean, it really is pretty neat when you start really studying it and looking at the opportunity where you can build cinder walls, right? Or you can just do the warehouse wise, and then it's just a front that is basically the facade. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so the cost of that is really not, it's not expensive at all. And I'm just seeing more of that are popping up in certain areas. And you're having that chopped up look to where you have, 6 or 7 different locations in that one strip.
Mm-hmm.
So once you can build that strip and you can get that thing making a good rate of return over a course of, a year, 2, 3 years, the value of that goes dramatically higher because now you got that income. So it's buying income is pretty much the whole philosophy is that you're building something to where you're getting it, making income, then you can either one, keep it, or you can sell it, right? So
That
does
makes
that make
sense.
sense?
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
just think about it as any business that, if you can build these things or renovate or whatever you need to do and get the really income in there, then that income is really what people are buying. And that's where you have more investors buying that versus the small little single doubles or whatever, right? Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I do have a question. So, you get these businesses inside of your shopping center.
Right.
What can you do as the landlord to increase traffic to those businesses? Or is that up to the businesses to do that? Because, if they
Oh,
win,
no,
you win.
no, you're just like any other business. I mean, if I'm gonna build something, my goal, or have anybody in there, my goal is to try to help them get traffic, because if I can make sure that this location is getting traffic and eyeballs and consistency, then you're building yourself a gold mine. So you can't wait for the other people to do it. And that's, so let's say, okay, business brokering. Are you familiar with business brokering?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So business brokering is just another part to this, that let's say you have a restaurant. Okay. You build out a little section to where it's a restaurant, right? Majority of the time, some of those restaurant businesses will not succeed. Okay. Now, you can do all you can do to help them, but at the same time, it's really up to that business, whether it's their food or their
Oh,
their
yeah, yeah.
staff or whatever, right? Or just understanding, some people get into a business, but they really don't. They're a good chef, right? But they have no clue about really business, right?
Gotcha.
So it's consulting with them a little bit to where, because I've bought and sold, as a business broker and a person, different businesses before, whether it's bars, restaurants. Um, there was a bar, restaurant, shoe business, and then the health club was always some. So let's say you build and you have a build out where you have the kitchen and everything else in there, right? So this person fails, right? And they move out, so they can't take the things that are attached to the building. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like the kitchen, majority of the kitchen stuff that's in there, that's furnaces and everything else, that kind of stays with the building,
Yeah.
right? So you can turn around and you can sell that business to someone who wants to get into the restaurant business, right?
Gotcha.
So I can sell that for $20,000. You can come in and everything's already here for you. You can change colors, change whatever, right? So when you start thinking about certain things like this, it's just like a bar. So somebody wants to buy a bar, and I don't know if do y'all have video poker up there?
No, video poker.
Video. So we have video poker machines. So when you buy a restaurant or a bar, you're allowed 3 machines in each location. So just those machines can make enough to cover your rent and everything else, right?
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty neat. Some of the opportunities. So some people will buy a bar because of the poker machines. It's not so much the liquor sales. The liquor sales is kind of like lagniappe, whereas the poker machines are really producing more money, right? So I remember some bars having pool tables, a bar. So you have different income coming from the liquor sales, a little bit of maybe you might have a little small food in there, like pizza, stuff like that. You might have the video poker, and then you have pool tables that collect money, right? And then you have different people come in there for pool leagues and things of that nature, and that's where you can kind of create these leagues. So when you have these different type of centers, you have to always look at it as, if somebody does not succeed, whether it's a coffee shop, restaurant, or whatever, that is kind of like part of your building. So that kind of becomes another revenue stream if that person doesn't succeed, or if they move out, or they find another place to go to, whatever. You're kind of have the opportunity where you can kind of resell that location to someone else who wants to come in and start up shop. Does that make sense?
No,
What I
that
just said?
you explained that perfectly. and you actually have my brain churning, because I was only thinking about that person or that business just focusing on what their particular niche is, which is, if I'm a restaurant, I just focus on my food. If I'm a bar, I just focus on, selling these drinks, and maybe I got a few burgers and fries and a pizza. But you're also mentioning about different ways that business can provide get income that could provide enough money for their rent, so that if they have a bad month in food, and some customers coming through buying drinks, they're covered because of the other streams of income in that restaurant.
Correct. You always got to look at, like, I had a small coffee shop at one time, and I'm probably going to have one again. But the income that came in there was, for one, renting it out for certain little parties. We had the coffees, and we had paninis, pressed sandwiches. And then we had alcohol, and then you have video poker. So all of these are different areas that you look at as your income producers, So then you had chicken salad, right? So we would make a bunch of chicken salad, and we put it in little containers, right? Those little containers were selling for $5 or $6 a container. So out of one batch of chicken salad, we were able to make 20, 25 containers, right?
Nice.
When you look at coffee, do you buy a lot? Do you buy coffee?
No, not often. I'm a tea guy.
Okay, all right. So you heard of lattes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what's in a latte?
Milk and coffee.
So it's this much espresso, the rest of it's milk. And people are paying $4 to $5 a cup for it.
And really, I'm more so worried about my coffee inventory than I am my milk inventory.
Correct. The coffee, the amount of money is in that is incredible high rate of return. And when you start looking at just a little, when you start noticing things, when you start going into places, like you go into a convenience store, you start looking at all the things, right? And how much they're making off of water, right? You're paying what, $3 for a bottle of water, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to the store and buy a case of 24 for $3 or $4.
Yes. It's funny you mentioned that. I just did that with my son this weekend. We bought a pack of 32 pack for $6. So we bought 3 packs of that for $18, and he made about $68.
Right.
So it is interesting how that works.
It is. It's crazy when you go to you have a Sam's up there. You have Sam's, I believe.
Sam's Club, BJ's, Costco's.
So when you notice, like, those small convenience stores or small shops like that, they buy in bulk, and they resell those things. Muffins. Let's say you buy a pack of muffins, right? The muffins come in maybe 24 in a case. Well, they're selling those muffins for anywhere between $3 to $4 a muffin.
Yep.
So it's those little things, I guess, I always look at, because when I got into the business, I never knew anything about a restaurant business, but there was something after the Katrina I wanted to kind of get into with my wife at the time, and something different, and it just opened my eyes up to a whole nother world of really understanding, when you walk into a place, all their money makers. And so my brain, I guess, works in all the different profit centers that you can make off of whatever different businesses. And when you're buying, it's easier sometimes to buy commercial property than it is the residential properties, because of the income that it's producing.
I've been told that before too, as well, that it is easier. It's just maybe just the mindset of how much it costs. Oh man, $2 million. Where I'm gonna get the money for that? It's not possible. Let me just go buy this single family home for 120K.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sometimes, if you have the right banker or the right lender, they understand the numbers, and so you're getting the deposits and everything else at the closing. So majority of that deposit is covering majority of your down payment.
Gotcha. And so go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, if it's all about the bankers, it's all about your lender. That if you have a good savvy lender and a realtor, if you're working with one, or just understanding the numbers, and sometimes you can get, sometimes you get some owner financing with businesses like that. Also.
I do think that the loan officers are unsung heroes when it comes to trying to find financing.
Yeah.
Locking in particular rates, or finding different ways different creative financing ways.
Creative financing is the key to everything. And you got to, it's kind of like a sickness that I'm constantly talking to certain people in financing, looking, reaching, because you're going to come across certain ones who really don't have a total understanding. You can have some that they know their numbers and they know how to make deals work. I had a deal back when I was starting out with real estate. I think I had maybe 15 properties or some sort, and the banker that I was using told me that I couldn't buy anymore. And I'm like, why? So, well, something with the banking regulations or whatever stuff that he came up with. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So Donald Trump has, all these different people have multi properties, right? So I
Yes.
went to a friend of mine who was a broker, and he told me, said, Rene, don't worry about that with their regulations or with their bank. So I had 4 properties that I was getting for really good deals. So I put 2 properties with one lender, 1 property with another lender, another property with another lender. So I bought all 4 properties in the same month, but nobody knew it until 2 months later when they hit the credit bureaus. But I made about $150,000 just by buying those properties at the time, because I got them for such good deals and I was getting money. I pretty much structured it to where I was getting money at the table. So I bought the property, made money at the table, and then my banker called me 2 months later and told me, what dude, what's going on? Where did these properties come from? I said, dude, don't ever tell me I can't do something, because you might not be able to do it, but there are ways to do anything. It's just sometimes you have to reach out and you have to talk and communicate and figure out, who can help you find that option.
I love that. I'm glad you said that, because I think sometimes we get stuck at that first no, because we assume that, well, a couple of things, that person that we've trusted with for their advice is going to give us something that we can't do, maybe because legally, and we're just not educated enough. But maybe it is because they think in their head it's not possible, so then they stop even trying to look. And so, go ahead.
No. That's the key, brother. You as entrepreneurs, I'm constantly thinking, and I'm constantly reaching, and I'm constantly networking, building relationships with all different types of people, and I'm learning. I'm always learning, and that's pretty much what I think with your podcast. It seems like you've been very successful on just getting certain people on your podcast, and every time you get certain people on there, you're learning, you're growing, and that's where your podcast keeps on building because of that resource.
Yeah.
That we're doing. That's what we're doing, is building.
It's been an awesome process, man. And one thing that I like to always ask is, what is your big why? What is your rich state of mind? Because you're a very calculated individual, and you've been doing this for over 30 years, so you have a love for it. So
I have a love for it. I have a passion. I've had my failures. Don't get me wrong. I did a bankruptcy 10 years ago.
okay.
I had too much. The 2008, when the mortgage crunch came. So that was my eye opener, I guess you can say, that what, you can lose everything, and life changes. So you had Hurricane Katrina that came, right? So that was my first, wow, okay, I had all my eggs in one basket, right? Then I recovered from it. And then the 2008 came, to where my property values shrunk overnight, right? And that's where I got into that crunch, because I didn't have enough diverse income. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I had my failure, and 10 years has taken me now to where I've learned, and I've never stopped moving fast into creating different systems and figuring out how the wealthy are wealthy, and being in that position to where I'm constantly moving and getting better. And that's where you see majority of successful individuals, that they don't stop. They don't stop learning. They don't stop communicating. They don't stop, getting better. And that's where my why, I guess, is that I have a goal that I want to be able to take care of a lot of people that are with me, whether it's family, friends, and employees. And a lot of my employees, they don't have a shot to obtain certain areas. And a lot of people, a lot of employees, their employers are not really looking out for them, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really a passion. If I can build a good company, or overall in general, my corporate company and the different companies that are with me, that if I can build people, build leaders, and help those individuals really kind of be proud of who they're working with and working for, that over time, my legacy is what is important to me. And the opportunity of changing lives. And my company now, What's Your Passion? It's really about helping people with their passions. Everybody has a dream, they have a passion, they want to do something, but they don't have anyone who believes in them enough to help them achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just working very hard on trying to put together some different things for people who are in my social surroundings, but also the opportunity to meet people like yourself in other states and other countries, and growing out across abroad, to where traveling, seeing the world, and having friends all over is really kind of a passion I've had for years. I have friends in different areas, and sometimes it's just kind of that big why is you can change the world one person at a time, and you can
Mm-hmm.
affect people around. So it's not just about the money. Of course, I like nice houses. Of course, I like boats. I like
Yeah.
cars and everything else. You know what I'm saying? That's all of our American dream, to where just, I've had them. I love it. But at the same time, that's not my materialistic part is not really there. It's
No,
more of
I
really kind
completely
of
understand
building
that. So,
and the freedom,
yeah.
freedom to where you're not going to be, you don't have nothing, government or anything else can hurt you. So I can't control the world of the government. I can't control the politics and everything else. I can only control my world and my system and my business.
And where can people find you, Rene?
They can get me anywhere on social media. I'm all different channels: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Rene Manfre. They can reach me at my phone numbers, 504-344-3317. My digital business card is rene.thebumpcard.me. It's a new company that we partnered up with, and we're sharing with people how to use a digital business card for their own central. So they can reach me on that, and they can see all my different businesses and companies on that. And that's Rene, RENE.thebumpcard.me. They can go to my website, WYP USA or WYP Agency, and learn about the different two companies. One's coaching and training, self-development, and an agency is more about podcasting, video, and marketing strategies.
Awesome. And we'll make sure that we add those websites and handles down in the description so people can contact you, because people need this type of coaching, this type of mentorship, this type of just influence. Sometimes just you may not even be directly helping that person. They just hear you from
Right.
just talking to somebody else, and it becomes infectious. And so I really promote people like yourself, because I think more and more people just have untapped potential, that if they just were around the right people and had the right conversations, they would be able to blossom into what they want to be, the best version of themselves, actually.
No, Anthony, I'm going to say, it seems like you and your wife, y'all are in the military, y'all are doing everything. And based off what I'm seeing, I mean, you're in your early 30s right now. And if you keep on doing what you're doing, brother, I mean, you have an opportunity within the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to blossom. So, I mean, I'm proud to kind of have an opportunity. I thank you for this chance to kind of just get to know you. So I'm looking forward to where we can stay in touch and keep on building, maybe doing different things together.
I find myself gravitating towards people that are way older than me. One of the people I was interviewing said I had an old soul, so I'm down. I don't mind it at all.
Nah, brother. Sometimes that's where, you know, the young generations, it's hard. It's hard. Most of the young generation, they're not focused like you and your wife are focused. They're still trying to figure out things, and it's a shame, but you're on the right track. You're on the right path, and whatever I can do to kind of be part of your growth.
Awesome, man. It's been a real pleasure, and I appreciate your time, Rene.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it, and you have a great night. Thank you.
You too.